Hi friends, this is LoX with Myoelectric, and today you're watching my very first video game review. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the pros and cons of the PC version of Payday 2. Payday 2 is a cheap thrill shooter that puts you and your friends in the shoes of professional thieves doing cliche bad guy stuff like stealing stuff and killing people. The game's core mechanic is pretty familiar: closed map design with a team of friends, bots, or random idiots killing off wave after wave of AI-controlled enemies. You'll be slaying anything from security guards to SWAT and even the occasional pedestrian, which I wouldn't recommend. There's also the potential to pull off fully stealth missions, which didn't happen much for me. The game feels very accessible as it thrives from a familiar coddish game mechanic which sort of evolves as your character levels up and unlocks new abilities. It borrows several proven characteristics from popular games, but specifically draws influence from zombie shooters. You've got a Call of Duty style of gunplay, a Nazi zombie closed map design, and even the window boarding screams Nazi zombies. Then you've got your Left 4 Dead dynamic environment, which doesn't play a huge role but translates to randomized safe and plank locations in an otherwise identical map. Next, there's an evolved version of Killing Floor's class system, which exchanges fixed predefined classes with a mix and match skill tree. Pick and choose skills from various classes or invest in one class to access the best perks at the top of the tree. Finally, there's a little dab of Resident Evil's weapon inventory, which I guess could also be a Call of Duty thing. At the end of each round, you can purchase new or upgrade existing weapons. In addition, you can modify one cosmetic element of your loadout: a creepy-ass unlockable mask. For a hodgepodge zombie-esque style of game, it would have been very easy for Overkill Software to adopt the nearly exhausted zombie theme. Whether it was their intent or not, I think a point has been made of how superficial a theme can be in a game's success. It's a great realization that has sculpted a very fun, mechanics-oriented game. Having said that, I would like to see Overkill push this even further. It's great that they can recognize successful game characteristics and implement them, but I'd like to see them innovate some mechanics of their own. I've given praise to Overkill Software for passing on the theme bandwagon, but I have to critique their rather awful presentation of life as a thief. Payday 2 employs an awkward and unnecessary explanation of the game's premise through the hire of genuine real-life B actors. At various times, pre- and post-mission, you'll be presented with background footage featuring awkward glares, spacey stares, and even a fair amount of nomming. It makes for some interesting conversation while you wait for your friends to ready up, but generally it only detracts from the experience. I researched the origins of these video clips and made the unfortunate discovery that a Payday miniseries debuted prior to the game's launch.
There are two types of criminals: the ones who get caught, and the ones who don't.
The less than flattering video series does little for submersion, but successfully drove the point home that Payday is a game that takes itself way too seriously.
We have a no scumbags can touch the girls policy in my bar.
It's really not worth overanalyzing the awkward video segments because they only cheesify the menu viewing experience. You'll forget all about it once you're engaged in an outdoor firefight toting a big bag of cash down the street. The game audio is particularly impressive as a concussion of outdoor shots immediately conjures up that heat vibe. My second complaint will certainly trigger a rant, as it has more to do with the state of the game industry than it does a particular flaw with Payday 2. It's my opinion that a story in a game should be completely optional. Certain games lend themselves to a good story, but a $30 game shouldn't feel obligated to produce a half-assed story simply because it's a popular review category at IGN. Personally, I romanticize the days when I could go to an arcade, pop in a couple of quarters, and immediately start playing a game. No cinematics. Between levels, my imagination could fill in the gaps and do a hell of a lot better job than the guy who played second fiddle to Tom Berenger in Sniper 2.
I ain't going out like no punk!
Now, some of you might ask if this is really applicable for a modern-day game. Well, take a look at Nazi Zombies, an amazing, simplistic bonus game that had little in terms of story, but could easily stand on its own as an independent release from the rest of Call of Duty's bloatware. Payday 2 succeeds in the same simplicity of the original Nazi Zombies and is better off focusing on its core mechanic strengths instead of feeling obligated to appease a checklist review. Lastly, I have one final complaint about the game's presentation, and that is in the use of an excessive amount of progress bars. Numerous tasks in Payday utilize circular progress bars, reviving teammates, deploying ammo, and stealing jewels, to name a few. If it were up to me, each one of these actions would require an animation, but that means a lot more work for the development team. A progress bar is an immediate reminder that you're sitting at a computer playing make-believe. If you had a progress bar for your reload, then you'd be screaming bloody murder. I think the same should apply to the majority of game actions. Something that I've been looking forward to talking about, which I plan to incorporate in future reviews, is my own suggestions segment. I know many of you have your own ideas as well, so don't hesitate to post them in the comments below. Payday 2 does a decent job fighting repetitiveness with weapon unlocks, skill trees, and dynamic maps, but it's certainly not cured. One random idea I pondered was a loot goblin equivalent that would appear randomly every 20 games or so. Perhaps it could appear in the form of another bank robber running down the street capping cops while spilling cash all about. Perhaps there could be an additional game mode where you sabotage your teammates or secure loot individually for a chance at a higher reward. Maybe there could even be an additional high-level skill for Mastermind where you could initiate a vote kick against a particular player to steal his cash. My next suggestion is to liven up the environment. Sometimes Payday 2 can feel like an empty set, particularly on some of the outdoor maps. Stale environments could easily be spruced up with dynamic events like destructible environment pieces, traffic, and at the very least randomized weather effects. My final idea is to give more value to the strictly cosmetic masks. I originally thought a Diablo approach with stat increases might be cool, but for the style the game Payday could be, I would much prefer that masks enable low impact changes. For example, a certain mask might cause ragdoll flight of enemies to be increased with all your weapons, or a troll mask might enable you to place fake ammo or med packs just to trick your teammates. Fake health pack could hurt you, and a fake ammo might jam your gun or something. You get the idea. Small impact changes that add a little variety. Okay, so my final thoughts on Payday 2. It's a really great game. You should definitely pick it up. It has a lot of potential. Some of the presentation factors are lacking, but I think if they reinvested the time spent on making cheesy video sequences into providing more animations, then they'll get a better return and a better game. So thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for future reviews right here on Myoelectric.